That's all dreamers deserve. My mother pressed a $500 check into my hand while my sister posed for photographs behind a $250,000 wedding reception. I was standing in the corner of a Hamptons ballroom. Imported orchids, string quartet, 200 guests in designer cocktail attire, and me in a $79 dress from a clearance rack, holding an envelope that was supposed to be her answer to the question I've asked 30 minutes earlier. Will you help me the way you helped Victoria? But the $500 wasn't why I left that night. It was what she said to the man standing beside me, the same man who would help me build everything she swore I'd never have. Before we go any further, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if stories like this truly resonate with you. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from right now, and what time is it there? Share it in the comments. My name is Nadia Collier. I'm 31 now, but let me take you back 2 years to a Saturday in August inside a rented estate in East Hampton, New York, the night I stopped trying to earn my mother's approval. The venue was a restored farmhouse on 6 acres, white linen draped across every surface, candles flickering inside hurricane glass. My sister, Victoria, had spent 14 months planning it. The reception alone cost more than most people's houses. Prime rib going untouched on gold-rimmed plates, champagne that cost more per bottle than my weekly grocery budget, a cake that required its own refrigerated truck. I'd arrived early, as instructed. I was assigned to manage the place cards, making sure 200 guests found their seats without confusion. Not a bridesmaid, not in the family photographs, just useful enough to include, invisible enough to ignore. My dress was black, simple, cap sleeves. I'd ordered it online during a 70% off clearance event, $79. I tried it on twice in my bathroom mirror before deciding it was fine. It was always going to be fine. Nobody was looking at me. The ceremony ended. Victoria floated down the aisle in custom Vera Wang, cathedral train trailing behind her like a promise the world had already agreed to keep. My mother stood in the front row in champagne silk, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, and I thought, she's never once looked at me the way she's looking at Victoria right now. The toasts were finished, the first dance was done, and I made my mistake. I found my mother near the bar holding a glass of Sancerre, glowing from the success of the evening. "Mom," I said, "can we talk for a second?" She turned. Her smile dimmed exactly 1 degree. "What is it, Nadia?" "I wanted to ask about the studio, the photography business I've been planning. I have a proposal, a real one. Equipment costs, lease projections, a client pipeline." "Nadia," she held up her hand, "tonight isn't the night." "I know, but you helped Victoria with her apartment down payment. $200,000. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for maybe a quarter of it." "Stop." Her voice dropped. "You want me to invest in a photography studio while your sister just married a surgeon? It's not a competition, Mom. You're right, it's not." She reached into her clutch and pulled out an envelope, pressed it into my hand. "There, that's what I can do." I opened it. A check. $500. Memo line, "For Nadia's project." I looked up. She was watching my face. "That's all dreamers deserve," she said softly. "Some of us build real futures. Some of us take pictures." A waiter nearby paused mid-step. A woman at a high-top table glanced over, then looked away quickly. And then my mother turned to Bennett, the man I'd been dating for a year, the man who'd driven 3 hours to be here, who was standing 2 feet away in the only suit he owned. She looked at him like you'd look at something stuck to your shoe. Another dead end she's dragging behind her. She said it to no one in particular. She said it like he wasn't there. Then she walked away. Bennett didn't move, but I saw the tendon in his neck pull tight, and something inside me shifted. Not shattered, that would come later, but shifted, unlocked, like a door I'd been spending years pushing against had finally swung open. I leaned close to Bennett. "We're leaving." He nodded. No hesitation. The gravel crunched under our shoes as we crossed the parking lot. I didn't look back. I didn't know it yet, but I'd never sit at my family's table again. I grew up in Scarsdale, New York, the kind of town where the lawns are measured and the children are ranked. Four-bedroom colonial, flagstone walkway, a kitchen that always smelled like something expensive. From the outside, the Colliers looked like a family that had it all. From the inside, we ran on a system, and I was never at the top of it. My older sister, Victoria, was the blueprint. Straight A's, varsity tennis captain, early acceptance to Columbia. She moved through life like someone who had been promised the world at birth, and believed it, because our mother made sure she did. Constance Collier, 59, former pharmaceutical sales executive who'd once wanted to run her own company, but never did. She poured every ounce of that unfinished ambition into Victoria, like cement into a mold. And Victoria hardened into exactly what our mother wanted. Corporate attorney at a white shoe firm, boyfriend from the right zip code, smile that looked perfect in the holiday portrait. Then there was me. I was the one who borrowed our father's old camera when I was 11 and spent entire weekends shooting the creek behind our neighborhood. I was the one who won a regional photography contest at 15 and brought the certificate home to a silent dinner table. My mother looked at it the way you'd look at a parking ticket. "That's nice, Nadia, but creativity doesn't pay mortgages." That certificate went into my bedroom closet. Victoria's tennis trophies, her honor roll certificates, her Columbia acceptance letter, those lived in the glass display cabinet in the living room. You could see it from the front door. Guests always noticed. That was the point. One daughter who would make partner, one daughter who took pictures. Guess which one got mentioned at dinner parties. I graduated from Syracuse with a degree in the visual communications, solid GPA, a portfolio of work I was genuinely proud of. Nobody in my family ever asked to see it. I moved to Brooklyn, got a job as a junior photographer at a small commercial studio in Dumbo, 12 employees, an office above a yoga studio, salary $36,000 a year. Not glamorous, but mine. The problem was the equipment. Starting a serious photography business requires gear, cameras, lenses, lighting rigs, editing software. The startup cost was close to $22,000. My credit history was thin, a student card with a low limit, 8 months of on-time rent, not enough for an equipment loan on my own. So my parents co-signed. On paper, generous. On practice, a leash. My mother kept that co-sign agreement in her desk drawer the way other people keep insurance policies. Every holiday phone call, every time I mentioned wanting something different, the leash tightened. "You still owe us for that equipment, Nadia. Don't forget who made it possible." My father, Warren, 61, retired financial analyst, the kind of man who checked stock prices during dinner because numbers asked less of him than people did. He'd sit at the table and say nothing. He'd nod, he'd clear his throat, and when my mother finished, he'd add, "Your mother has a point," without specifying which one. I met Bennett Hale at a gallery opening in Williamsburg. He was 30, a freelance web developer who'd been on his own since 19. Parents split when he was young, put himself through community college, built a client list one cold email at a time. What I loved about Bennett wasn't ambition in the way my mother understood it, corner offices, titles, firm handshakes. He was ambitious in the way that mattered. He showed up every day for his work, for me, for the life we were quietly building in a 500-square-foot apartment with secondhand furniture and a grocery budget that required spreadsheets. My mother learned about Bennett 3 months in. "A freelancer?" She set her fork down at Sunday dinner. "So neither of you has a real career?" That same month, Victoria got engaged to Dr. Preston Ashford, orthopedic surgeon, old money, summer house in Connecticut, jaw that belonged on a campaign billboard. My mother hosted the engagement dinner herself. 40 guests, catered. Victoria found a partner who matches her ambition, she told me at that dinner, glancing at Bennett across the lawn. "You found someone who matches your situation." Bennett heard it. He didn't flinch, but I saw his jaw tighten, and I knew he would never forget. By 7 the next morning, my phone showed 14 missed calls from my father, 3 text messages from Victoria, and nothing from my mother. Nothing, because Constance Collier didn't chase. She waited for you to come crawling back. The messages glowed on my screen. Warren. Nadia, please call. Your mother is upset. Victoria. You left? Everyone was asking where you went. You embarrassed the entire family. Victoria. Again. This was supposed to be my day. I hope you're proud of yourself. I didn't reply to any of them. Bennett and I sat at our small kitchen table in Brooklyn, the one we'd bought secondhand, the one that wobbled on the left side, with his laptop open between us. On the screen, refinancing options for my equipment loan. Your credit score is at 688, Bennett said, scrolling. It's borderline, but if we go through this credit union, we can get you approved at 7.4%. Higher than what your parents got, but the loan transfers entirely to your name. He paused. They come off the title. Clean break. I stared at those 2 words. Clean break. I looked at the screen. $22,000, give or take, and for the first time I saw it clearly, not as debt, as a chain my mother rattled every time I made a choice she didn't approve of. And here was Bennett, at 7 in the morning, already researching how to cut it. Why did I let a $22,000 loan keep me in a family that priced me at $500? I whispered. Bennett didn't answer. He just squeezed my hand. Have you ever realized the thing trapping you was smaller than you thought? That the lock was cheaper than the cage? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. The credit union approved the refinance within 5 days. Interest rate? 7.4%. Higher than before. I didn't care. The loan transferred to my name alone. Constance and Warren Collier were removed from every document. I sent one email. Mom, Dad, the equipment loan has been refinanced under my name alone. You are no longer on it. Thank you for the original cosign. Nadia. Professional, brief, no emotion. My mother called within an hour. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was short. If you think you can survive out there without us, Nadia, go ahead and try. We'll see how long your little photography dream lasts. I played it once, then I deleted it. That night, Bennett and I sat on our couch, also secondhand, a little sunken in the middle, and stared at a map on his laptop. We could stay in New York, he said, but your whole family is here. Every holiday, every birthday, every random Tuesday when your mother decides to remind you where you rank. He zoomed out on the map. Or we go somewhere else, somewhere with lower rent, no state income tax, a creative scene that doesn't care about your last name. His cursor hovered over a city in Tennessee. Nashville, I said. Nashville, he repeated. I can work from anywhere. You can build a client list anywhere. We'd be starting over, but we'd be starting clean. I looked at the screen. Then I looked at him. How much do we have? He pulled up our shared banking app. If we sell what we can, pack what fits in your car, and leave by the end of the month, he did the math, 3,800, maybe 4,000 if we're lucky. It wasn't much, it wasn't safe, but it was ours. Okay, I said. Let's go. 2 weeks later, everything I owned was packed into my Honda CR-V. 2 suitcases, 1 box of photography books, my laptop, a cactus Bennett had given me on our first anniversary. The morning we left, I stood on the curb outside our Brooklyn apartment and looked east, towards Scarsdale, toward the house with the trophy cabinet, toward the mother who had measured my worth in a memo line. Then I got in the car. Bennett started the engine, and we drove south. I didn't know what Nashville would bring. I didn't know if we'd make it a month or a year or a decade. I only knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, I wouldn't be asking their permission to live my life. The skyline shrank in the rearview mirror. Somewhere behind us, my mother was probably still waiting for the apology. She'd be waiting a long time. Nashville welcomed us with humidity and a parking ticket. We'd driven 14 hours straight, stopping only for gas and bad coffee, and when we finally pulled into the apartment complex on Dickerson Pike, I realized I'd forgotten to feed the meter while we unloaded. $45, our first expense in Tennessee. The apartment was a studio. 420 square feet of beige carpet, a kitchenette with 2 burners, and a window that looked out onto a storage facility. Rent? $850 a month, utilities included. The cheapest option we could find that didn't require a cosigner. We didn't have a bed. Not at first. Bennett borrowed an air mattress from a guy in an online developer forum who happened to live in East Nashville. That first night, we lay on it side by side, listening to the window unit rattle through its cycle, and I stared at the ceiling. Water stain in the corner, shaped like a question mark. What if my mother was right? The thought arrived uninvited. I didn't say it out loud. I didn't have to. Bennett rolled over. We didn't drive 14 hours to quit on night 1. I started working the next day. Server at a barbecue restaurant on Broadway, $11 an hour plus tips. The owner was a man named Dale who called everyone Hun and let me keep the burnt ends that didn't sell. I worked the lunch shift, 11 to 4, then came home, showered, and sat cross-legged on the air mattress with my laptop open. I had a portfolio. I had skills. What I didn't have was a single client in a city where nobody knew my name. The first month, I landed 2 gigs. A headshot for a country singer's backup guitarist, $150. He paid in cash and told me I was pretty good for a Yankee. A product shoot for a woman selling handmade candles on Etsy, $200. She asked if I could also design her logo. I said yes, even though I'd never designed a logo in my life. I taught myself Canva that night. Total freelance income, month 1, $350. Combined with server tips and Bennett's web development work, we cleared rent. Barely. Groceries came from Aldi, and I learned that rice, eggs, and determination could stretch further than I'd ever imagined. Freedom tastes different when you can't afford furniture. But there was something else, too. Something I hadn't expected. For the first time in my life, nobody was watching. Nobody was ranking. Nobody was comparing me to Victoria or reminding me what I owed. I could fail here, and the only people who'd know were me and Bennett. Strangely, that made me braver. Month 2, I walked into every coffee shop, boutique, and restaurant within 5-mile radius with a printed portfolio and a smile I'd practice in the bathroom mirror. Most said no. Some said, maybe later. A few didn't even let me finish my sentence. But a vintage clothing store on 12th Avenue South said yes. They needed photos for their website, $300. A food truck called Smokey's Brisket Barn said yes. They needed menu photos, $400. A bed and breakfast in Franklin said yes. They needed exterior shots for a travel magazine pitch, $500. By month 3, I had a rhythm. Serve lunch, shoot afternoons, edit at night. Sleep when I could. My hands smelled like barbecue sauce and ambition. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't stable, but it was mine. And for the first time, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could build something here. Month 4 broke me. It started with an email. The bed and breakfast in Franklin, the one that had become my biggest client, the one I'd been counting on for repeat work, sent a 2-paragraph message that ended my momentum. Hi, Nadia. We've decided to go in a different direction. Our nephew just graduated with a photography degree and offered to do our shoots for free. Best of luck with everything. Best of luck with everything. The professional equivalent of a shrug. That same week, Bennett lost a web development contract. A startup in California that had been paying him $2,000 a month for maintenance work sent a cheerful Slack message. Pivoting our tech stack. Thanks for everything. Thanks for everything. There it was again. I pulled up our banking app that night. The number glowed on the screen like a warning. $1,247. Rent was due in 11 days. $850. That would leave us with $397 for everything else. Groceries, gas, the phone bill we needed to keep working, the electricity that powered the laptops that powered our careers. I did the math 3 times. The answer didn't change. I went to the bathroom, turned on the faucet to cover the sound, and cried. Not the quiet kind, the kind that comes from somewhere deep in your chest and doesn't stop until there's nothing left. I gripped the edge of the sink and let my body shake. The bathroom was small, white tile, cracked grout, a faucet that dripped every few seconds. I stayed there until my eyes stopped burning. When I came out, Bennett was on his laptop, researching. Always researching, always trying to find the next solution. "Hey," he said softly, "come here." I sat next to him. He'd pulled up a list of Nashville photography Facebook groups. Someone posted looking for a last-minute event photographer this Saturday. Corporate holiday party, they're paying $800. $800. Rent money. Where? I asked. Downtown, some restaurant on 2nd Avenue. The company's called Vance Creative. I applied that night. 3 hours later, I got the gig. Saturday came. I showed up early, camera bag over my shoulder, dressed in the nicest black blouse I owned, the one without the coffee stain on the sleeve. The party was at a rooftop restaurant. Twinkle lights, open bar, 70 people in business casual networking over craft cocktails. I moved through the crowd, capturing candids, group shots, the CEO raising a toast. Toward the end of the night, a woman approached me. She was in her mid-50s, silver hair cut sharp at her chin, navy blazer over a white silk blouse, no jewelry except a thin gold watch that caught the light when she moved her hands. "You're the photographer," she said. Not a question. "I am?" She studied me the way a contractor studies a foundation. "Your compositions are good, your lighting instincts are better, but you're working too hard for $800. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. She handed me a business card. Margot Vance, creative director. Vance Creative. "Come to my office Thursday, 9 a.m. She paused. "Don't be late. I don't refer sloppy." She walked away before I could respond. I stared at the card. Then I slipped it into my pocket and finished the shoot. That Thursday meeting would change everything I believed about my own value. Margot Vance's office was on the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in the Gulch. Polished concrete floors, exposed ductwork painted matte black, a wall of windows overlooking the Nashville skyline. Her desk was immaculate. A single orchid in a ceramic pot, a MacBook Pro, closed, 3 framed magazine covers on the wall behind her, campaigns she directed for hospitality brands I recognized. She didn't offer me coffee. She didn't offer me a seat. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. I sat. "Tell me about your pricing." The question caught me off guard. "My pricing? What do you charge for a brand shoot? Full day, edited photos, usage rights included?" I swallowed. "It depends on the client, but usually around $500 to $800. Margot's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or recognition. "And what do you think that work is worth?" I hesitated. "I don't—" "That's the problem." She leaned forward. "You don't know. Or you do, and you're afraid to say it out loud because you've spent your whole life being told your work doesn't matter." The words landed closer to home than she could have known. "Let me tell you what I saw Saturday night." She tapped her finger on the desk. "I saw someone with a real eye. Composition, timing, the ability to capture a moment without forcing it. That's rare. That's valuable. And you're selling it for $800 because you're scared no one will pay more." I opened my mouth to defend myself. Nothing came out. "Here's what I'm offering." She slid a folder across the desk. "I have 2 clients who need visual content, a boutique hotel in Germantown and a restaurant group opening a new location in East Nashville. Both need photography, social media assets, and brand direction." I looked at the folder, didn't touch it. "Here's what I'm offering. I'll refer you for both, if and only if you come back to me with a real proposal, professional scope of work, professional pricing, and a registered LLC, not a freelancer with a Venmo account. How much should I charge? I asked. Margot smiled, the kind of smile that's also a test. That's for you to figure out. But I'll tell you this, if your number doesn't make you uncomfortable, it's too low. She checked her watch. You have 48 hours. Email me the proposals by Saturday, 9 a.m. If they're good, I'll make the introductions. If they're not, I won't. She stood. The meeting was over. I walked to my car in a daze, sat behind the wheel, stared at the folder in my lap. Then I called Bennett. I need you to help me register an LLC tonight. A pause. What happened? I'll explain when I get home, but I think something just changed. That night, we sat at our second-hand kitchen table, the one that still wobbled on the left side, with his laptop open to the Tennessee Secretary of State website. The filing fee was $300. We had $14.89 in our account after the Saturday gig payment cleared. I typed the name into the field. Collier Creative, LLC. Bennett looked at me. You're using your family name? It's my name, too. I hovered over the submit button, and I'm going to make it mean something different. He didn't argue. I clicked submit. Maybe stories like this remind us that the people who humiliate us don't get to write our endings, and staying connected to stories of quiet triumph might be exactly what we need when our own moment finally comes. $300, more than half of what my mother thought I deserved at that wedding. But this time, I was investing in myself. I sent both proposals at 8:47 a.m. Saturday morning, 13 minutes before Margot's deadline. The boutique hotel in Germantown, $4,200 for a full brand photography package. Website images, social media assets, staff portraits, and 2 months of content direction. The restaurant group in East Nashville, $4,800 for a grand opening campaign. Interior and exterior shots, menu photography, and a 30-day social media launch strategy. My fingers had hovered over the numbers for 20 minutes before I hit send. Both prices made my stomach turn. Both prices, according to Margot, were probably still too low. Monday morning, the hotel replied, "Love the proposal. Let's schedule a kickoff call." Tuesday afternoon, the restaurant group replied, "When can you start?" $9,000 in the pipeline, more than I'd earned in any single month of my life. I sat at our wobbly kitchen table, staring at my inbox, reading both emails over and over until the words stopped looking like words. Bennett came out of the bathroom, toothbrush still in his mouth. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost." I got both. He stopped brushing. Both? Both contracts, $9,000. He set the toothbrush down, crossed the room, and wrapped his arms around me. "I told you," he said into my hair. "I told you we didn't drive 14 hours to quit." That Friday, I walked into the barbecue restaurant on Broadway for my last lunch shift. Dale was behind the counter. Same stained apron, same kind eyes. "I got a job offer," I said. "A real one. In photography." He didn't look surprised. "Figured this was coming. You were always too good for this place, hun. Just needed someone else to see it." He handed me an envelope. Inside, my final paycheck plus an extra $100 cash. "Call it a graduation gift," he said. "Now get out of here before I get sentimental." I hugged him. He smelled like hickory smoke and grace. The next 6 months moved fast. By month 7 in Nashville, Collier Creative had 4 retainer clients. Monthly revenue, $18,000. I hired my first contractor, a social media manager named Ivy who'd just moved from Atlanta and understood hashtags the way some people understand poetry. By month 10, 7 clients. Margot introduced me to the Nashville Hospitality Council, a network of hotel owners, restaurant groups, and tourism boards that met quarterly at a rooftop bar downtown. "Prepare a 5-minute presentation on visual branding ROI," she told me. "Don't charm them, show them numbers." I stood in front of 35 people in a blazer I'd bought at a consignment shop and showed them numbers. My hands shook for the first 90 seconds. Then the data took over. Smokey's Brisket Barn foot traffic up 28% after my menu photography campaign. The Germantown Hotel's Instagram engagement up 340% in 3 months. The East Nashville restaurant's opening weekend fully booked with a wait list. By the time I finished, 4 people had left business cards on my chair. Month 12 revenue, $41,000. We moved out of the studio on Dickerson Pike into a 1-bedroom apartment in East Nashville. It had a separate room I could use as an office, a real desk, a real chair, and a bed, queen-size, solid wood frame that we assembled together on a Sunday afternoon while Bennett played music on a Bluetooth speaker. I printed the LLC certificate and pinned it to my office wall. Next to it, I pinned a printed screenshot from the email from the bed and breakfast in Franklin, the first client who let me go, the nephew who replaced me for free. Underneath, I wrote in Sharpie, first rejection, first fuel. Some walls hold trophies. Mine held evidence of becoming. I didn't go looking for Victoria's Instagram. The algorithm found me. One night in March, 14 months into Nashville, I was scrolling through industry hashtags, looking for inspiration, when the app decided I might enjoy a photo of my sister standing in her living room. Same colonial house in Westchester, same Carrara Marble Island, same brass pendant lights, same smile that photographed well. But something was different. The caption read, "Grateful for quiet moments at home." No mention of Preston, no couple photos, no dream life with my dream man language she'd been posting for 2 years. I scrolled through her recent posts. 3 weeks of solo content. Interior design shots, a book on her nightstand, a glass of wine on the porch. Where was Preston? I closed the app, opened my laptop, got back to work. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, the quiet one who sent birthday cards with $20 bills inside. "I thought you should know what's happening," she said. And she told me everything. Preston Ashford was under federal investigation. Insurance fraud, billing for surgeries that never happened, falsified patient records. The hospital had launched an internal audit 6 months ago. 2 months ago, federal agents had subpoenaed his financial records. The house they'd bought after the wedding, funded partly by the equity Victoria had built from the apartment my parents helped her buy, was now tied up in asset freezes. Victoria couldn't sell it, couldn't refinance it, could barely afford the mortgage payments while Preston's accounts were locked. "She's leaving New York," Patricia said, "moving somewhere cheaper to wait out the investigation. Your mother is furious, won't stop talking about how Victoria was supposed to be the success story." I felt something I didn't expect. Not satisfaction, not vindication, sadness. Not for Victoria's circumstances. She'd made her choices, married the man with the right pedigree and the wrong character, but sadness for the system that had built her. The ranking, the pressure, the performance of perfection that was never going to survive contact with real life. "Where is she moving?" I asked. Patricia paused. "Nashville." The word landed like a stone in still water. "She doesn't know you're there," Patricia added. "Your mother never told her. I think Constance was hoping you'd fail quietly and come home. When that didn't happen, she just stopped mentioning you." Stopped mentioning me. Erased from the family narrative. The ultimate ranking, invisible. "Thanks for telling me," I said. "Nadia," Patricia's voice softened. "I saw what happened at the wedding. Your mother was wrong. I should have said something then. I'm sorry I didn't. Not an ally, just a witness, but sometimes that's enough." Victoria moved to Nashville 3 weeks later. A small rental in Germantown, the same neighborhood where my first major client was located. 1,200 square feet, no marble, no Preston. She didn't know I was building an empire 6 miles away. She was about to find out. The invitation arrived in September. The Creative South Awards, celebrating excellence in visual arts, design, and brand innovation. October 14th, the Omni Nashville Hotel. Collier Creative had been nominated for Emerging Agency of the Year. I read the email 3 times. Then I called Margot. "Did you know about this?" "I submitted your nomination 4 months ago," she said. "You're welcome." Margot, don't thank me. When? The gala was held on a Saturday evening. The Omni Ballroom, 32 floors up, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Cumberland River. 500 guests, founders, investors, creative directors, hospitality executives, agency heads. Open bar, a jazz quartet, name tags printed on heavy cardstock that felt like invitations just to hold. I wore emerald green, not safe black, emerald green, a tailored blazer I'd had made by a seamstress on 12th Avenue South, my first piece of custom clothing. Underneath, a simple black silk blouse, hair pulled back, low bun, gold earrings that caught the light. Bennett was beside me in a charcoal suit, the first one he'd ever owned that wasn't rented. We arrived at 7, found our table, number 4, front section. 2 years ago, I'd been assigned to manage place cards at my sister's wedding. Tonight, my name was printed on a program. "You okay?" Bennett asked, squeezing my hand under the table. "Ask me after they announce the winner." The ceremony began at 8, category after category. Applause, speeches, crystal awards catching the light. I was so focused on the stage that I didn't notice who had walked in, but Bennett did. He leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. "Nadia, back of the room, near the bar." I turned, scanned the crowd, and my heart stopped. Victoria was standing by a high-top table, wearing a dress I didn't recognize, something simpler than her usual style. No wedding ring on her finger. She'd been attending hospitality networking events for weeks, Patricia had mentioned, looking for consulting opportunities now that her legal career was on hold. Next to her, my father, Warren Collier, gray suit, same uncomfortable posture he'd always had at events he didn't want to attend. He'd flown in to help Victoria through the divorce proceedings. And, next to him, my mother, Constance Collier, champagne-colored blouse, pearl earrings, the same expression she wore when she was assessing something she hadn't expected. They were here, in Nashville, at this gala. "How?" I whispered. "I don't know, but they're looking at the program." The MC stepped to the podium. "And now, our final award of the evening, Emerging Agency of the Year. This award recognizes a creative firm that has demonstrated exceptional growth, innovation, and impact within its first 3 years of operation." I couldn't breathe. This year's nominees include 3 names, 3 agencies. Mine was last. And the winner is... The pause stretched for eternity. Collier Creative, Nadia Collier. 500 people applauded. I stood. My legs were steady. My hands were steady. 2 years ago, those hands had been gripping a $500 check in a Hamptons ballroom. Tonight, they were smoothing the front of an emerald blazer that fit like it had been waiting for me. I walked to the stage. The spotlight was warm. The crystal award was heavier than it looked. At the back of the room, near the bar, my mother's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. If you've ever been the overlooked one in your family, the one they dismissed, the one they ranked at the bottom, stay with me. Because what I said next, I said for you. I stepped to the microphone. 2 years ago, I left New York with $3,800 and a Honda CR-V. 500 faces looked up. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have family support. What I had was a partner who believed in me, a mentor who challenged me, and a decision to stop waiting for permission to build my own life. I paused, let the room hold it. Legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you build, and you can build it from nothing if you're willing to bet on yourself when no one else will. The applause came louder this time, a standing ovation. Bennett was on his feet. Margot was nodding from her table with the smallest smile. I walked back to table 4. As I sat, my eyes drifted across the ballroom and landed on my mother. She was looking at me. I held her gaze, nodded once, small, the way you acknowledge someone you recognize but haven't spoken to in a long time. Then I turned to Bennett, and I let the evening continue without her. The email arrived 3 days after the gala. Not a text, not a voicemail, an email. Because Warren Collier needed the structure of paragraphs to say what he couldn't manage out loud. Nadia, someone posted a video of your speech online. I've watched it 9 times. I counted because your mother would say I'm exaggerating, and I want to be precise for once. I should have stood up for you at the wedding. I should have said something when your mother handed you that envelope. I should have stood up for you your whole life. Every Thanksgiving, every phone call, every time she compared you to Victoria, and I sat there saying nothing. That's what I was. Silent. I want to name it because I think you deserve to hear me say it. I won't ask you to forgive me. I'll ask you to let me try to be better. I love you. I always did. I was just too quiet about it. Dad. I read it at my desk. Morning light coming through the window, the crystal award catching the sun. I cried. Not the desperate kind, the kind that happens when something you stopped hoping for arrives anyway. Late, imperfect, but real. I replied that evening, I'd like that. Coffee only. And we go slow. We met at a cafe in East Nashville the following week. He was still in town helping Victoria, but this time he came alone. My mother took longer. She called in December. Brief, measured, asking if we could meet. I agreed. 1 coffee, same terms. She sat across from me at a cafe on 12th Avenue, hands wrapped around her mug. I didn't think you could do it, she said. Not cruel, just honest. I know. Maybe I was wrong. 4 words, the most she'd ever given me without conditions. You were, I said. But I didn't build this to prove you wrong. I built it to prove something to myself. Victoria texted in January. No excuses, no performance, just, I'm sorry. For the wedding, for the silence, for all of it. I replied, if you want coffee sometime, let me know. No tearful reunion, just 2 sisters, for the first time, on level ground. Some people inherit their legacy. I built mine with the 2 things my family never gave me: belief and a fair chance. My mother gave me $500 and told me that's all dreamers deserve. She was right about one thing. I got exactly what I deserved. Not the $500, the fire. Have you ever discovered that your fire was worth more than anyone's approval? What would you build if you stopped waiting for permission?